a pretty full agenda. So first thing I want to do is I want to do a roll call.
Commissioner Paul Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Pettis Reed.
Here.
Commissioner Jonathan Beverly.
Here.
Commissioner Alan McAdoo. Here. Commissioner Michael Rather. Commissioner Mike Cush. Chairman Craig Harris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, next on the agenda, we need to approve minutes. I want to call on Vice Chairman Pettis Reed.
Mr. Chairman, I've read through the minutes. Copies of those are on your iPad, and everyone should have the opportunity to read through those. Mr. Chairman, I make the motion they be approved.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Commissioner Beverly. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Move on. All right, we have some announcements. First, we want to announce a PBA vacancy to fill retiring member seat, term to expire January 2026. I'd like to announce a Conservation Board vacancy, term expires February of 2023. And I want to announce an IDB Board, Industrial Development Board vacancy, term to expire March of 23. We need to have all those applications for any of these boards who's interested be in 1 week before the next steering meeting to be considered. All right, let's move on. Next on the list is the Juvenile Detention Board report. Mayor Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since our last steering committee meeting, the Juvenile Detention Board has not met. The Juvenile Detention Board has changed its meeting date to the second Monday, so I'll have a report if there's anything to report at the next steering committee meeting.
Second Monday, and what time is that?
It always starts at 12 o'clock, I believe.
12?
1 o'clock. Nick Christensen says 1 o'clock. Thank you, Nick.
All right. Everybody needs to make those changes. Next, we need to update on our lobbyists. So that's you again, Mayor Carr.
So there's no update on the lobbyists, but I do want to provide an update on the activities that we're doing. The bill currently dealing with amending Title 67-4-2901 through 2913 is in legal services in the process of being amended, at which point then there'll be an appropriate time for it to be put on notice to be heard in the appropriate subcommittees in both the House and the committee in the Senate. With regard to other activities, I was in Robertson County Saturday. I'll be in Blount County this Friday, and this past Friday I was in Wilson County with Commissioners McAdoo and Irvin, and I can tell you that the reception we're receiving with regard to our initiative is overwhelmingly positive. Moreover, I want to compliment and commend the Commission for passing the resolution back in January regarding this particular initiative, because that resolution has been distributed throughout Tennessee, if not all, certainly most of the 95 counties. And I get a call just about every day from either a county mayor or a county commissioner in one of those counties supporting our particular resolution and using that particular resolution as a model or a template for their own resolution to encourage their state delegation to do what we did. And so a tremendous effort is taking place by the team. And of course, my efforts in Wilson County, Commissioner McAdoo, you were there. I guess there were close to 100 commissioners there, were there not, that got to hear the explanation of the bill and the justification for it and received a copy of that resolution. I would assume there were about 100 there, wouldn't you?
I would say it was 100 plus, and it looked like each and every one of them accepted it and was for it. And that was a lot of support coming from them that is going to be pushed down at the state legislature from CTAS. And
yes.
So it looks good on that end.
It did. It did. As a matter of fact, it was the County Commissioners Association, you've never been, I'm sure some of you have, but what they do is they do a rating of the bills that are filed. You know, are we for it? Are we against it? Are we strongly for it? Are we strongly against it? Do we watch it? This particular initiative received a unanimous, strong support from the County Commissioners Association, and we have the same kind of support from the County Mayors Association. So again, I want to thank the County Commission for passing the resolution when they did. It had its intended effect. So, thank you.
All right, I need to go back to the juvenile detention report. I need a motion to approve this report.
So moved.
I have a second. Second. All those in favor say aye. Let's move on. Next is our HR report. Is Sonia here? Come on up, Sonia.
How is everyone tonight? So it should be on your iPads. So I'm going to go over the 2022 one first. It was the final recap for the year, and like I told you in the last meeting, some of the items do not come in till after the month is over, and I do this report before they have time to realize. So this is a complete report for what occurred in 2022. So this is on your iPads, right? That you can see it? Okay. The other one is the 2023 snapshot. So this will be what has occurred in January. And the biggest items that were changed between 2022 2023 is we had more personnel, 18 personnel changes versus 6 for last January. Onboarding of new hires, we had 122 this January versus last January. And then the training is the big thing. We have a new system that allows us to train people electronically. It lets us send them out. They can view it because they can't always leave their desk to come to an actual training. And we had several of our annual training modules that we do, such as Title VI, sexual harassment, those type things. So we had 2,950 trained on these topics, these various topics, versus 127 in the prior year. So those are pretty big things. As we are moving forward with other departments, we can load those departments' trainings on our system, and that way, if for a department that has maybe 3 shifts, then they can watch that. You know, one person can go for 30 minutes, 45 minutes to do their training, and then offset with somebody else. So I anticipate these training numbers increases as we go along this year. As far as ADA for this term, the biggest things, we had 4 interactive, and that's ADA where someone's on leave and they're coming back and we do an ADA interactive. Under the personnel changes, we had the biggest numbers were 11 promotions and 5 transfers. We didn't do any audits in January. Benefits, we had 11 employees request TCRS applications or estimates, so retirees or that they wanted to see where they would be if they did retire. Community involvement, we had, overall, we had 6 different activities. One event, we had a Tennessee Achieves open house. Myself and my assistant in the office were Tennessee Achieves. She still is, and I've came off of that board for now to roll on to something else, but she is still participating in that. Leave, we had 82 FMLAs in January and 16 military leaves. 5 different activities that were under legal. Offboarding, we had 21 exit interviews and 19 separations. Onboarding, we had 41 new hires, and we did 70 salary evaluations, and those are if somebody got a promotion, demotion, plus the new hires. 5 different policy changes, which would be a creation or a revision of a job description. Promotions are just activities that other organizations offer us, like Costco has offered a discount to our employees, Gatlinburg, Sam's Club, some of those, and we put those out there for our employees to benefit from. Recruitment, we received and referred 403 applications, submitted 141 declination letters, conducted 50 interviews, and had 21 job postings, did 10 reference checks. reports and surveys, we did 49 background checks, 184 open records requests, 65 Title VI requests, 22 verification of employments. Special projects, it's budget time, so we're working on budget projects at this point in time. Evaluation and testing, the biggest items are our pre-employment, which would be our background checks and our drug screening and our physicals and TB test. Title VI, we didn't have as many requests in January as we normally have, but we had 68, with the largest number being in Spanish. There were 62 requests for that. And then our overall training, which I've already discussed. And that is all of that report. If there are any additional questions, I'll be happy to entertain those for you.
Are there any questions? All right, I need a motion to approve the report.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Johnson, do I have a second? Second, Commissioner Beverly. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you.
All right. Gentlemen, next on our list is our absenteeism resolution that we have been talking about for a couple months. If you look onto your iPad, you'll see that there's some language, and I'd like to discuss this. Me and the county attorney had looked at each and every committee out of the many of them that they are, and the ones that we can definitely change to have an absenteeism policy will be the Adult Entertainment Board, Agriculture Advisory Board, Audit Committee, Beer Board, Codes Enforcement Adjustments and Appeals Board, Historic Courthouse Board of Trustees, and the Insurance Committee. Now, what I'm proposing is this language right here is any member of the following boards or committees that is absent for 3 consecutive meetings or 4 meetings in 1 calendar year shall be replaced. Again, those are the Adult Entertainment Board, Agricultural Advisory Board, Audit Committee, Beer Board, Codes Enforcement Adjustments and Appeals Board, Historic Courthouse Board of Trustees, and Insurance Committee. Is there any discussion on this? Commissioner Reed?
Mr. Chairman, I think this is something I know was discussed maybe 4 years, or we've been talking about this for a good while. This has been something that's been of concern due to the fact that when you're trying to come up with a quorum, it's been difficult. When you don't have the members there to participate and to give input into what we're trying to do, it does make it difficult to conduct the business of these different committees. And like I said, I know I've been hearing this discussion, we need to do something about this for a long time, and finally there is some type of way to do so.
All right. Commissioner Beverly?
I agree. Even though there might not be an issue with these committees right at this exact moment, we have the tools, if it ever does arise, to go ahead and address it at the time versus delaying it 2 months through this committee and then the full commission.
Anybody else? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve. I have a second.
Second.
Commissioner Reed, you have to do a roll call on this.
If I could make a comment, this thing says shall be replaced. Should there be some exception, like instead of saying shall be replaced without some type of written permission? You know, what if I had a heart attack and I was going to be out of commission for 3, 4, 5, or 6 months? I wouldn't want to be replaced because I know I'm coming back. Just a thought.
So you're saying it should be a rider on there?
I'm just suggesting this thing is definite, point blank. If you miss 4 meetings in a year, you're going to be replaced. There could be some exceptions to that in my mind.
I think that's just up to this board of how it wants to do this. If you're wanting to put some caveats on it, you could put the word unexcused, absences. I think that this board, at least at the time I've been sitting here, has discussed this off and on, and it kind of, when it gets into this making exceptions, then you have to deal with, on what circumstances does it apply here and not here, and who's making that decision. And so the idea was, and this is just more form, it's not policy, but the idea behind this was if someone's not coming to a board, regardless of the reason, it could cause inefficiency of the board not being able to conduct its work. And so having a more bright line rule kind of obviates the need to make individualized determinations of whether this member or that member should be axed or not. But whether you all want to put that on there, I'm happy to put the language at the desire of the committee.
I'm okay with the way it's written, with that
Okay.
explanation.
All right. We have a motion, we have a second. Go ahead, Rachel.
Commissioner Beverly?
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes?
Chairman Harris?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, let me go back to number 7, resolution of support for juvenile justice reform. Me and Commissioner Johnson had some questions concerning this, and we've directed it to Representative Mike Sparks, and I think Commissioner Johnson is going to get with him on that, and he's not ready for us to discuss this, so we're going to move this on. Next is number 11, RFP process and procedures discussion. This is something that I want to address. We have 9 new commissioners. We have a system here that we've been doing for a long time, and I want to continue to do that. I feel like any resolution that comes forth needs to go through committee, and it needs to be as transparent and as talked about as possible. If you pull onto your iPad, you'll see some language that I've put together, and I want to discuss this with each and every one of you because we got 4 chairmen in here, and we need to look at this, and I'm going to read this to you, and I'd like to get your idea on this. I firmly believe, without a doubt, that our committee system works and is exactly how it should be. Whether I agree or disagree with the mayor or disagree with any administration or anything, we have to go through the proper channels because we are picked by our committee. This committee is picked by everybody. And then we look into and assign people to where they want to go, to where they feel that they are best suited for helping this county, vetting all resolutions that come through. So I want to make sure that we understand the process. I want to make sure that we understand the boundary lines on this, and I want to read this language, and then I will open it up for discussion. Except for budgetary items, any member desiring action upon or consideration of an item not on the agenda or previously considered by the appropriate standing committees must attain approval of 2/3 majority of the Board of Commissioners before such item may be considered. I am wanting to discuss this passage right here to be included into our policy. So is there any questions on this? Sir? Yes, sir.
Well, I agree to a certain point, and we had situations in the past we had to break this policy. One good example is the servers over there in the building 20 North. It didn't involve a monetary price at the time, but it did involve somebody making a decision to move them. And so therefore, we couldn't wait to take it through the proper committees. We took it straight to the Board of Commissioners. And it may not seem like much, and some commissioners may think that it should have went through the committees. Well, I can guarantee you if we left those servers where they were at, we wouldn't have had no committees, assignments, or nothing. The county would have been shut down. So decisions like that, emergency decisions, Don't come and tell me, well, we got to wait and go through the proper committee. If I had to tell my district, oh, well, the building was on fire and we were going to do something, but I had to wait and take it through the proper committee. Now, it should be an exception, emergencies, if it's budgetary or not. I just don't like it saying if it involves money, then it's okay. I think it should just say emergency situations. To me, should be included, and just not saying budgetary.
Are you saying it should be to add language to it, to include emergency situations? Because it's kind of open-ended here. I put in there 2/3 majority of Board of Commissioners, that we can still hear. I'm not stopping that process and not bringing something that night of that, but we need to have 2/3 of people to agree to listen to that. So if that's what you're saying is emergency situations, is that wording, Nick, that we can add to that?
I'm just looking at what was on SharePoint. I think that at the very start there, it says except for budgetary items. I think that needs to remain. I don't think Commissioner McAdoo was suggesting that that be deleted, but in addition to that, it would read or could read except for budgetary or emergency items. You could put that language. You probably need a form of a motion to amend that, to add that and get that on the table for continued discussion.
Is that good?
Second.
All right, I got a motion to amend. All those, do I need a roll call on this? Roll call.
Mr. Chairman, I might be looking at the different language. Are we looking at below is the suggested language regarding RFP and purchasing process, or are we on a different one?
No, we're on resolutions.
Okay.
You need to look into the quotation marks.
Okay.
We don't have a motion. We don't have a motion on this, so we don't have to do an amendment. We can include that, so I'll read it as follows. Except for budgetary items and emergency situations, any member desiring action upon or consideration of an item not on the agenda or not previously considered by the appropriate standing committees must attain approval of 2/3 majority of the Board of Commissioners before such item may be considered. Any discussion on that? Commissioner McAdoo, does that sound good? Commissioner Chairman Phillips, does that sound good?
So anything that's approved on an emergency basis would have to be still approved by 2/3 of the majority of the county commission
No,
at
sir.
the meeting?
No.
Okay.
Just for it to be heard, we had 2/3. So for instance, you come up and you want to do a resolution at the last minute, then we'd have to have a motion to accept that, and it has to be 2/3 of the county commission to approve before we go forward with it. That's only on items that have not been approved by the standing committees. And we've eliminated emergency and budgetary items.
So really, we're actually doing something similar to what we're doing right now with emergency situations, except taking it to a supermajority instead of just a simple majority.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks.
Prior to it even being heard, oftentimes now the item gets on and is discussed, and then before it's approved, there's a majority vote to be taken. This kind of has the vote held at the beginning before discussion is actually had, where the item is proposed to be heard, but before it can be proposed and discussed or presented to the body, there'd be a 2/3 vote required, unless it's a budgetary item or it's an emergency situation.
Very good, thank you.
Anybody else? All right, go ahead, Rachel.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo? Commissioner Beverly?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Chairman Harris?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Next on the agenda is we want to talk about the RFP process and procedures discussion. One of the things that made me bring this up is I want to make sure on the RFP process that we go through the committees as well as on this. State law and Private Act has already set the parameters of the purchasing RFP process. I feel that if an RFP process is created by a standing committee, then it should be approved by that standing committee. And it should go through the proper channels and the proper committees that it came out of. If you look on your iPad, I had put some language down, and I would like to discuss this, and you let me know what you think. I'll read it. The county's purchasing and RFP process is already controlled by state law and Private Act. With that said, I would suggest that as a matter of practice, important and non-routine items not already included in the budget that are going through the RFP purchasing committee process should be sent to the appropriate standing committees for review prior to final approval, assuming circumstances warrant it and there is sufficient time to do so. Example, we had, the most recent thing that we had was the Lobbyist RFP process. And Lobbyist was addressing with legislative and government affairs. That's who we are, is that. And let me back up. We were not entitled to any of the process that went on in the RFP process, and I didn't even know about it till I went, I just walked into a purchasing committee, and I never even heard, seen, or know anything about these lobbyists. So, you know, the way I look at it is, why are you shaking your head, Mayor? Is there something you want to say?
I just agree with your recollection of the fact.
Okay.
This is your committee, not mine.
So, in saying that, I feel that the RFP process needs to go through the proper channels and to the people and standing committees that it's supposed to. I'm not asking for anything that is not needed to be done in the first place. This language was approved by the county attorney, and this is the language, and I want to discuss, do we want to include this, not include this, and what are your thoughts on this?
Similar to just what we have gone through, does not your last sentence do somewhat of the same thing of what we amended the last one to? Where you say, assuming circumstances warranted and there is sufficient time to do so.
Yes, sir.
Somewhat in the same situation.
Yes, sir. We're just simply, all I'm trying to do is keep this going through the committee process. And like I said, it's already, state law has already done purchasing and Private Act. But what we are wanting to do is we want to make sure that once purchasing approves something, that they allow the standing committee that is addressing this situation, send it back for that committee to approve. So it's no different than this transfer station that we're doing. Those things were created by they're going to be approved by purchasing, and then Public Works will approve those RFPs. So it's just another step in the process. But like I said, this is up for discussion. And if there's anything that you feel that this doesn't address or over-address, then let me know. Mr. Johnson? Sir? I have a motion to approve. I have a second. I have a second.
Could
Any discussion?
If I could someone explain what would be the difference between what we're doing now and what this would do? Like I believe you mentioned the lobbyist situation that came up. That was brought before purchasing, and then the full commission without going through steering. Is that correct?
No.
That's not.
No, what I'm saying is that if there's an RFP process, and I mean, the last one we had is, I'm talking about the lobbyist. If the RFP process, once that's been approved, we would like it to go back to the standing committee to be looked at and approved and confirmed. So that's no different from Public Works, it's no different from Public Safety on the public safety buildings, and it's no difference here. So we feel like for instance, the lobbyists, we are over government affairs and legislation, Commissioner, and we didn't even know anything about these lobbyists. The only way that I knew anything about them was when I walked into your purchasing committee meeting and I seen it for the first time. And that process we have to go through the proper channels. If we don't do that, then the administration or the mayor's administration can just bring stuff up all the time and just bypass the committees. I'm saying that what I'm trying to do here tonight is I'm trying to reiterate to everybody the importance of committee and importance of the procedures that we have been doing for years. I'm not bringing anything up that we haven't already been doing. But this stuff, when we start seeing things being bypassed, then there is a concern. And that's what I'm doing. I'm bringing that concern.
Mr. Chair, if I may, the RFP process for the lobbyists originated in steering, then it went to purchasing, then it went to the full commission.
Okay. First of all, when you asked for us, the process was, the exact motion was to give you $100,000 and to begin the RFP process. And if you go back and do your homework, you will see that in the minutes, that it says that. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure, and that be honest with you, I should have done a better job. That one's on me. Because for now, we're going to be strict to exact wording of what needs to be done. So that one's on me. And I apologize for that, for doing that. But I'll be more precise in our language. And I hope that all chairmen are precise in their language because situations like this happen. So that's where I'm standing on that. So the process would have been like this. It would have been, steering would have okayed the RFP process that it did, but the wording should have been, and then brought back to steering to be approved. So that's how it should have been, but it wasn't. So that's where the discussion is. I'm up for anybody that wants to go against me on this or go with me. It's up entirely to this committee.
I believe there's a dollar amount. Is it $25,000? Is that what it is? Going through the RFP process, the mayor has the latitude to approve anything less than $25,000. Is that the process? I'm just trying once again to get a little clarity in my mind.
Formal competitive bidding is required for purchases over $25,000.
Okay. So this process, I think, Chairman Harris, what you just said was that the mayor brought the idea to steering. Steering gave him approval to start the RFP process. That happened, and then it should have came back to steering to okay that process before it went to the full commission.
Absolutely.
So that's the process, and the approval process. If I can remember the timing. If I'm not mistaken, you guys help me with this, but steering met on first Monday of December, and then county commission met on
second week.
Thursday of December. So when did that RFP process happen? Was there a special call meeting that we had before the county commission?
No, there wasn't. He started the RFP process. He asked for that in steering, and we gave that to start the RFP process. Again, let me reiterate, it should have been more specific language. So the reason I'm upset about this is it deals with legislation and government affairs. That's who we are. And that process should have came back to steering. But I will make sure from here on out that the wording is considered, does say that, Jeff. In any resolution that goes through here, it'll have the exact language it needs to be. But the lobbyist situation was on me because I was under the impression that we gave $100,000, up to $100,000 and begin the RFP process. And then we never heard or seen anything from it since. And I would have never known anything about it had I not went to purchasing and I got a brochure or something, whatever, from them. So that's the only thing that I'm talking about. It needs to go through the process, which every committee is addressing that.
If an RFP process were to be started, the purchasing meets on the third Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, Mayor, that's correct, right? The third Tuesday. And that would give the fourth week of every month to address two of the committees, and the second week of every month to address the other three committees. So all the committees could be handled after the purchasing RFP, after the RFP went through purchasing. So if we continued to meet on the third Tuesday, the purchasing committee meets, and all the committee process should be available, that information should be available to them before the full commission met the following month.
Yeah, and it's not always steering. I mean, you know, this particular issue is steering, but you know, Jeff, how many other committees, I mean, property management, public safety, public works, a lot of them have more RFPs than we ever have. I'm just simply trying to make sure it goes through the proper committees and be approved before we go. And once purchasing has decided on accepting it, it needs to go back to the standing committee. That's what I'm saying.
If we continue the current scheduled meeting process that we have, all of the committees meet between the time that purchasing meets and the time the full county commission meets. So there shouldn't really be a delay in anything unless we have one of these emergency type of situations.
So Chairman Harris is correct. He came to purchasing upon my invitation and request because he was upset that at that time he felt like that should have gone back to steering. I will say my understanding of the county commission rules, however, certainly allow for any member to stand up on the floor when an issue is before the full body to re-refer that particular resolution or issue back to the appropriate standing committee for a vote. So it's not like the county commission doesn't have available to it an alternative solution to re-refer. You always have that option to re-refer. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Nick can help me out on that with the parliamentary procedure, but I'm almost certain with anything, any member can stand up and refer that back to the committee for review. And as a matter of fact, I believe we did that most recently on the public safety buildings, did we not, Commissioner Reed? So there's an example there.
That's what this is saying. We're trying to go back, like for instance, and I keep harping on this lobbyist. You threw that in our face and saying we got to have it right now, and it didn't go back to steering. So we didn't even know anything about any of those lobbyists or anything at all. You threw it on us at the last minute.
So I didn't throw anything at anybody.
On us, and you know you threw it on us.
So I didn't throw anything at anybody. And the parliamentary rules of this commission allow for, if that were the case, it would have allowed any member of this body to refer it back to the appropriate standing committee. So I'm not a member of this body. I don't have a vote. I don't have a motion. I don't get to make a second. But I thought the facts surrounding this particular incident were relevant if you use it to make a decision going forward. Thank you for your indulgence.
So I have a question. So do you feel that we can just bypass the committees altogether? You can do whatever RPs you want to do and not have to go through the appropriate committees?
as a personal matter, I think committees are extremely important. They serve a vital role in providing a deliberative process to very important matters that are going to come before the commission. Secondarily, they provide another important role, extremely important role, providing transparency and openness, which every legislative body should embrace. That's the purposes of the committee system, so I fully embrace the committee system. However, having said that, I think there are rare occasions where situations and circumstances permit, and those rules are already in existence, where you can bring an issue to the full floor, or you can bring it through an expedited version of the committee system. Indeed, in the Tennessee legislature, when you get to the last few days of the system, you have what's called the flow-mo, and everything literally, they suspend the rules to accelerate the process. It's usually during the budget. So all my point is, no, I believe the committee system is extremely important. It's very valuable to the process, and I support it.
Yep. Is there any other discussion on this? We have a motion, we have a second. Go ahead.
Commissioner Beverly?
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Chairman Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I may, just some direction for your staff, including myself and Finance Director. So there needs to be a place where this goes. What you all just passed, this language needs to go somewhere. And if it's okay with the steering committee, I'd like to get together with the county's finance director, and it may be that it go in. Yeah, so the county has got some purchasing policies and regulations that are not private act and are not state law, and that's probably where this should go, just so that it can be identified as a place if we need to look for it later. So I'll get with him if it's okay, and when it gets presented to the commission, it'll be in a resolution form for everybody to understand where it's going to be located.
Sure. All right. That concludes our agenda. Now to other business. I'm sorry, guys. Let's go to litigation list. You have it on your iPad. Is there anybody that has any questions concerning the litigation list for this month? All right, seeing none, let's move on. Next is on our agenda is other business, and this deals with the Rockville annexation. This is something that Commissioner Reed has brought up, and I'm going to turn it over to him.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I've brought to you tonight is something that we have been dealing with out there in that area, as well as other individuals within staff, within a lot of different people have dealt with since April of this year. And it goes all the way back to the fact of when we started out dealing with a non-contiguous annexation of 68 acres out in the Rockville area by the city of Murfreesboro, going down Highway 99 directly in front of the elementary school there. The non-contiguous annexation went before the city's planning commission. It went from there to city council, where it was passed in one reading. Then it come to a point where for them to have a non-contiguous annexation, there had to be an agreement between the city and county to do so by state law. We went through several different situations there. It began first with Mayor Ketron during his administration, and then of course we changed administration, and then we began, Mayor Carr inherited that. And then we started trying to do some things there to maybe see what we could do with it there. It seemed not to get an agreement there. So about November, we had the understanding, or at least I had the understanding, and I think that's what many of us did too, is that the city would just go ahead and annex Highway 99 from their current city limits And that annexation would carry it directly in front of the property that they were wanting to annex and develop down that way, which would give them a continuous annexation. And I basically heard that said by the mayor of Murfreesboro, saying that's what they would do. However, last month, notification come through the Planning Commission of the city of Murfreesboro saying that they wanted to do an annexation of that highway, but they also added 2 more properties to it. And gentlemen, you have a copy of that annexation on your desk there saying what they wish to annex. And the 2 properties they wanted to annex were the properties on each side of the road, one containing the Rockville Elementary School, which also contains our brand new Rutherford County Health and Safety Building. On the other side contains the Rockville Middle and the Rockville High School. They wanted to annex those 2 properties as well within that annexation. The county had not requested that that property be annexed. Especially, I think, for sure, the public health and safety building, since we're currently just now building that and we haven't even set foot in it yet for those annexation. It caused a bit of concern. Our mayor has tried to work on that. He's been working on it quite hard, and we appreciate that, what has been done there, making contacts and what we had. It went before their planning commission, and their planning commission suggested a public hearing. That public hearing was held last Wednesday evening. At that public hearing, it was hoped that at that one, that those 2 pieces of property containing the schools and the public health and safety building would be removed with only them annexing the highways. It wasn't. We had several individuals from the Rockville community to address the Planning Commission. I was quite proud of those individuals. They did not get up and act wrong. I can tell you that, Mr. Chairman. That's what we see in a lot of public situations where we have those hearings. They only got up and asked questions. What happens if it is annexed? They only got up and asked those questions of concern that they have there. But the assistant city manager made some statements that sort of shook me when he made the statement that if the city annexes those properties, that the public health and safety building, which would contain our fire departments and rescue, they would not be servicing those schools, that they only serviced outlying areas within the area out there, that those schools would be served by the city of Murfreesboro's fire departments, which exist 2.5 miles from this property. And that concerned me because we already have an elementary school exactly next door to this who's going to adopt that fire department. So this also concerned the people in that area out there, where we are and what we're doing. But it's just something that seems totally unnecessary. That's why I'm before you tonight. I'm wanting to create a tool, and that's all I'm saying, a tool, because even their legal stated to the Planning Commission that evening, saying there is state law which says unless the property owners request that the property be annexed, we cannot annex the property. But yet they went ahead and passed it to send it on to City Council. So what I'm asking tonight is that we come up with a motion basically saying that we as a county commission, as the county who owns that property, wish that we do not wish for it to be annexed. And by doing so, giving us a tool, say to give to the city of Murfreesboro, saying we do not wish for this property to be annexed, following state law as the property owners, giving a direct statement to this purpose, that people know this. Not only for the commission having this tool, but our mayor also having a tool as well, that he can say that our commission does not wish for this property to be annexed. And I have with me the motion that I wish to give this evening. The motion is, we, the Rutherford County Commission, as the responsible party of properties owned by the Rutherford County government located on Tennessee Highway 99 and on tax map 123, partial 01600, currently developed with Rockville Elementary School, also the Rutherford County Public Health and Safety Building under construction, and tax map 123, part of partial 01800, portion of the property currently developed with Rockville Middle and Rockville High Schools, do so notify the City of Murfreesboro and its Planning Commission that we, as the property owners, do not request these properties to be annexed into the city limits of Murfreesboro.
Have
Mr.
a
Chairman, I
motion?
so move.
Second.
Motion, have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
we talked earlier with other issues about precedent, and City of Murfreesboro seemed to overstep on this one. State law says they need permission. They did not get permission. No one has requested annexation. This is an example we can set for the community of Rockville to show that the City of Murfreesboro will not come and annex your property. They will not do it to the county government, and they will not do it to citizens, and we are happy to lead by example on this. So I'm proud to support this motion and happy to see where it goes.
Commissioner McAdoo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support it, but I got to go back to our discussions tonight. Appropriate committee. I myself personally had discussion on this, that school board want to make this request, then it should go to health and ed to be discussed. And then if it's a policy change that steering needs to get involved, then steering should come up afterwards. If we're going to do something, let's do it right. I hadn't heard anything from health and ed about this. Now, I've been up here for several years, and I thought, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, that if the school board had any type of presentation that they were going to make or whatever, and want a decision made or whatever, no, it normally came through health and ed. Am I correct? Correct. Have this been through health and ed?
My recollection is no, that it hasn't gone through that committee, although there has been some discussion with some members of the school board, including the superintendent, and their response was they made no such request and do not support that property be annexed. So I think there's been some discussion, but it hasn't gone through health and ed at this particular point in time. The reason that it probably hasn't was because of what Commissioner Reed said, is that the City of Murfreesboro was not going to move forward with it. What happened last week was totally different from that, and that's probably the reason it hadn't gone through health and ed at this particular point, because there'd be no reason for it to go through if they weren't going to annex it. But now it appears that that's changed, because they had a public hearing on annexing that last Wednesday night. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it needs to go through all the committees. This committee, the Public Works, Property Management, Health and Ed, would probably all have some type of input into this, into the process. But as far as my recollection, no, it hasn't gone through health and ed.
I have some questions, Commissioner Reed. All right, I think Chairman Phillips answered it. First question is, where is the school standing on this? I think he made a statement, so would you want to reiterate that?
Mr. Chairman, I have talked to the superintendent, and just as been said back here, the schools are not for it whatsoever.
Okay.
for sure. I had contacted the superintendent this weekend. He's out of town. And he said that he would, if he could, he would be glad to get us something that way too. But he's had contact with the mayor and this sort of thing. And we do know the mayor has been working on this as well. The only thing I was wanting to do with this is just give us something else to work with, where we actually come out and say this publicly, that we haven't, we're not wanting to annex this. But if we want to run this through all the committees, I'll gladly take it to every committee we've got.
What, do you have any idea as to why the city wants to annex our schools and our public safety building?
No, sir. I have no idea whatsoever.
And my last question is, where does the mayor stand on this? Would you want to answer that? You don't have to if you don't want to.
I know, but you asked me to, so I will.
All right.
The mayor agrees with Chairman Reed that the city of Murfreesboro did not Rutherford County did not seek to be annexed from the city of Murfreesboro. Therefore, any effort on the part of the city of Murfreesboro to annex not just the schools, but the public safety building as well, we would stand firmly opposed to that. I have communicated that to Mayor McFarland. We've had some excellent conversations in that regard, and he understands exactly where the county is at with regard to annexing the schools and the public safety building. What I have conveyed to Mayor McFarland would be the best solution for the annexation of that property they're wanting to develop, would be the annexation of the Highway 99 right-of-way and the right-of-way only. And that way, it solves the problem without creating a problem. Solves the problem of giving them contiguous access to that property they want to get developed at the end of that sewer trunk line, while at the same time maintaining the Rutherford County schools in Rockvale and the public safety building inside Rutherford County and not in the city limits. So that's my position. And I would say that if this were to be referred back to Health and Ed, it would probably need to be referred back to public safety, since we have a public safety building there.
Mr. Beverly?
Refresh my memory, when is the first reading on this matter with the city council?
First reading on which one?
This annexation plan that Planning Commission approved?
You're talking about the first annexation from
Sorry, maybe I'm mistaken. Was this plan referred to the full city council? For
the city council? I'm not sure. I think probably in March.
Okay. So
March 5th, I think, is when that one probably going in there.
We're kind of under a time crunch in some capacity.
Yeah, that's one reason when that will come forward within the city council right there. In fact, the city council was going back to their second reading last week of going ahead and zoning that property out there, but it was stopped due to the fact nothing had been annexed through there.
By my counting, that means it would go, if it goes to our public safety committee, it would be the end of this month, and then it would have to go to the full county commission in March.
In March.
So we're pretty delayed there.
Any other discussion?
It might be appropriate. Not sure that this is the right way to do it, but in my mind, it might be appropriate if this committee passed this motion for our county attorney to get with the city's attorney and explain to them that the steering committee has passed the motion. It will be heard before the full county commission next week. And try to get some clarification as to what they're trying to do. If they know that they can't do it without permission, I'd just like to know what they're doing. You know, it doesn't make any sense if they're going to do it and they're saying they're going to do it. If the city's saying they're going to do it, without county permission, I'd like for our attorney to approach their attorney with what they're doing is not legally on sound ground. So what are you doing, you know, and why are you doing it? We pass this motion and it goes before the full county commission. I'd like for our attorney to at least talk to their attorney and get some feedback from them as to why they're moving forward with this without the proper authority and permission to do that. I'd like to see our attorneys at least have some input in this.
Mayor Card, did Mayor McFarland tell you any reason why they're wanting to do this?
No, and I don't think we can presume that Mayor McFarland is orchestrating these events. The Planning Commission did this, and I think the Planning Commission knows full well from their attorney and from the county mayor's office that they don't have the authority to do so. I wouldn't presume that the city council is going to vote for this, much less even take it up. I'm not speaking for them, but that was the Planning Commission. And Mayor McFarland and I have talked about this. He understands the position of the county very, very well. And moreover, even more importantly, their attorney understands the position of the county very, very well. So.
All right. We have any, do we have any other discussion on this? We have a motion and we have a second. Motion, go ahead, I want you to read it again, sir. You got it? All right, go ahead.
We, the Rutherford County Commission, as the responsible party of properties owned by Rutherford County government located on Tennessee Highway 99 and on tax map 123, parcel 01600, currently developed with Rockville Elementary School. Also, the Rutherford County Public Health and Safety Building under construction, and tax map 123, part of parcel 01800, portion of the property currently developed with Rockville Middle and Rockville High Schools. Do so notify the City of Murfreesboro and its Planning Commission that we, as the property owners, do not request these properties to be annexed into the city limits of Murfreesboro.
All right. Commissioner McAdoo?
Just one more point I want to bring up. I think I heard from Chairman of Public Safety that at the Planning Commission planning meeting for Murfreesboro, that the statement was made that in the future, if we build in the schools, that they would have to be annexed into the city of Murfreesboro before they get the Murfreesboro service.
Yes, it was said at that meeting that any future schools that are built that to have sewer service from the city, they'll have to be annexed into the city of Murfreesboro.
All right, Rachel. Roll call.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo, Commissioner Beverly,
Yes.
Chairman Harris.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Is it appropriate, Nick, for you to have some conversation with the city as to why they're moving forward with this without permission?
I'm happy to do that if the committee desires me to reach out. It'd be the will of the body to let me know that, so I have firm direction on knowing if I need to reach out or not.
Yes, you do.
Fair enough. Thank you, sir.
Is there any other business? Meeting's adjourned.